Hey everybody, what's up from Pokemon Classics, reminding you that the classics, like Weird Al Yankovic, never goes out of style. You know, I wanted to send a quick thank you to everybody for all of the questions in this 2,000 subscribers special. This channel's been really evolving a lot more quickly than I anticipated, and my goal originally with this channel was to share some of my collection, get some motivation to go back into the cards and appreciate their artwork, as well as share some of the tips and strategies that I've learned over the years as a collector. So it's really cool to have this platform. I'm really appreciative of that. And today we're going to go through some of your questions and hopefully give you some answers that are helpful. I don't know how helpful they'll be. That'll be up to you guys to decide. But anyway, I look forward to going through these questions. And man, did you guys bring some good questions. Also, stick around to the end because I'm going to be taking all of the entrants that had submitted a question that I chose to respond to, and they'll be put in for a chance to win the drawing at the end, which is going to include this Dark Blastoise first edition holographic card, along with quite a few others that I chose to package with it. So stick around to the end. I'm excited for the giveaway, and there might be some twists and turns and some unexpected surprises too. But anyway, let's roll into the questions. All right, our first question comes from William Boyer. And it's, in your opinion, should the Pikachu Illustrator still fetch the higher price over a card such as the number 2 trainer that sold in the past PWCC? You know, this is a great question and one that I don't feel particularly qualified to answer. I don't collect Japanese. I don't own any trophy cards. I never have. However, my personal suspicion would be that those original trophy cards, especially from the 1997, 1998 tournaments, I would actually value higher than the Pikachu Illustrator just because of the limited numbers. Again, I'm not sure how I would value those for later years. I think having that historical value of the earliest trophy cards is going to offset the scarcity of some of the later ones. So I don't really know the answer to this one. Personally, I would value the trophy cards a bit more, but that's just me. All right, our next question's coming in from Enoch Tang, who says, vaccines are currently rolling out, and things should be back to normal by mid to late summer. Given the huge attention and price increase in 2020 to now, how do you think this will affect the Pokemon market? Great question. If I had the crystal balls, I could give you guys a definitive answer. My suspicion, though, is that as we see things return to normal, we will see a slight downturn in interest in Pokemon collectibles and other things that people have turned their attention to. Having said that, I think with it being the 25th anniversary, with the current climate around Pokemon and some of the momentum, it will carry forward to some degree. Now we have to factor in that supply issues with Modern are probably going to be corrected in that time frame, and there are going to be more cards coming back from PSA entering the population. So with all that put together, it seems inevitable to me that certain segments of the market will likely experience a pullback to some degree, but I don't think we're going to see the instantaneous market crash that a lot of people are anticipating. That's just my suspicion on it. I do think that the interest in Pokemon is generally pretty universal, fairly sustainable, just not to this level of unprecedented growth that we've seen recently. So those are my feelings. Great question. Thank you for that one. All right, next up we have Herb Gaming saying, what's your opinion on PSA charging more for their grading service? Do you think other card graders like Beckett, CGC will become more popular because of this and the delays PSA are experiencing at the moment? Congrats on 2,000 plus subs, man. Thank you very much. I'm sure this channel will be big in no time. Keep up the great work, dude. Well, first of all, thanks for the really kind words. The growth of the channel was something that I wasn't really anticipating, especially this quickly. I am very thankful. I'm very self-reflective about that and hoping to use it for a force of good in the community. Ultimately, it's been a fun ride. I'll just say that. To your question, though, about PSA, I think the price increase was inevitable. Like, with the amount of submissions they were seeing on a regular basis, I don't know how they could have maintained operational sustainability without doing something drastic. So frankly, I don't think those prices are surprising. It is unfortunate a bit, especially to the people that are sending cards, not with the intention of flipping or reselling, but for their own collection, because that cost of entry has significantly increased, especially since the prices of cards have increased as well, which means those service levels not only doubled, but potentially on a card you had earlier, it could have gone up dramatically. So I do feel that that's something that I don't want to discredit or overlook. Having said that, I think those other grading companies like Beckett, CGC, are still going to continue to grow. They're probably going to experience some growing pains and price increases of their own. That to me also seems inevitable, but that's just kind of the way markets work. They're dynamic, they're constantly changing, and as collectors, we do need to adapt to those markets to some degree. It is unfortunate as well, but I mean, with the volume that they were processing, how could that not happen? So I'm still using their service for PSA. I've sent cards in under high submission levels and higher processing fees. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's still a valuable service to the hobby, I think, and something that I'll continue to use. It's just not ideal. So thank you for that question. That's a good one. And next up, we have Jonathan Connell, who says, as a fellow on-cue Pokemon League attendee, I have to ask, what is your most memorable trade, battle, or experience at your Pokemon League, or what memory stands out to you the most? He shares his experience. For me personally, it was being the first kid to bring Japanese Neo cards, I love the Neo sets, to the event before they were officially released in the US. I bet you were popular. I bet people wanted to see those. I managed to get Lugia, nice. Pichu, that's another really good one. Kingdra, which I still have and remember getting to show them off, and how much fun it was to see and show off the new Gen 2 Pokemon. Congrats on the milestones, well deserved. Well, thank you for that, first of all, and yeah, the Neo sets have always been some of my personal favorites. Thinking about on-cue, the most transformative memory for me was early on. I must have been there for a couple of months, and I was pretty young at the time, maybe like 13 years old. There were two managers at our local on-cue store that ran the league, and one of them was moving. And so there were a few weeks where I was given one of the stampers and put in charge of working with the younger kids and stamping their books when they completed a task or done a trade or finished one of the battles. There were different things you got points for. And after doing that for a few weeks, this manager, before he moved away, tossed me his gym leader shirt, and they had a conversation with me about putting me in charge, basically, of part of the league. So to be entrusted with that responsibility at that age was very transformative. It's something that I'm really grateful for. It cemented my interest in Pokemon. And I think it was influential in my decision to become a teacher in life, because that's something that I had experience with and that I really valued, was working with all of the different kids that came into our league. And that's something I got to continue to do for several years afterwards. And so that event, really thankful for it. And it was really cool to be able to share all of those daily experiences, all of the new cards, the new sets, with that demographic, with those friends. And that's really what it was. It was hanging out with friends every weekend, and you can't put a price on that. So, great question. I'm glad your league experience was great as well. I think that's something that Pokemon could use more of in the modern era, is more league opportunities, more of that social aspect to the game. I've actually shown this off before in a few of my videos, but this is actually my Pokemon League Gym Leader shirt, the one that I actually wore to regular league events, and the stamper that came along with it, and my original badges and my original badge book. I had them all framed. I have it hanging up on my wall, and it serves as a constant reminder to what Pokemon means to me. And so I think it's good to remain that connection to the childlike atmosphere of discovering Pokemon for the first time. Great question. All right, so this question comes from Pikachu Da Bomb Peeps 2. Really unique name there, but it's what's your favorite Pokemon and best Pokemon card? Well, my favorite Pokemon has always been Alakazam. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's the psychic nature of the Pokemon. Maybe it's the spoons. I know there's a lot of Gengar, Haunter, Ghastly fans out there, and why not choose the Ghost family? But for me, it's got to be Alakazam. Best Pokemon card is a difficult one to answer because there's a lot of different ways to look at that. It could be the most valuable one to me, the one with the most nostalgia, the one that's the most expensive. Honestly, I think my most valuable or meaningful card has to be my very first holographic. I bought it for $15 from the local card store, And I got into some trouble with my parents for spending so much money on what was deemed as a piece of cardboard. But it was this Shadowless Raichu card. It's one that's been in my collection ever since. I actually did trade it away for a little while and had to get it back, which is a whole nother story. But that one is one that has a lot of sentimental value to me. I'm thinking about getting it graded, even though it's in pretty rough shape, but it's definitely meaningful, and I think that sometimes it's better to attach that value and meaning behind something that has sentimental value rather than monetary value, if that makes sense. All right, so LL is hitting us with 2 questions for the price of 1, so we'll go ahead and address both of these. First question is, what are the first steps someone should take when thinking about collecting in this modern era? And then part 2 is, besides eBay, PWCC, and Heritage Auction, where else would be a good place to look for sourcing cards? Great questions. For this one, we'll take the first half. The first steps that I would suggest are, 1, build up your knowledge base, especially if you're looking at putting money into this and you want to do it as more than just opening some packs for the thrill of it. It's good to know what you're doing, what you're buying into, what the expected value is, and not over risking your finances without thorough education. I don't like to bill Pokemon investing as this flawless entity where you're just going to make money and it's going to go to the moon, because that's not really the case with everything. So do your research. That can come from YouTube videos. There's a number of collectors out there that produce content that are far more knowledgeable than I am, and I would highly recommend them. In fact, I made a video talking about some of my favorite YouTubers for Pokemon content. You can check that out. There's also sites like E4. I'm an E4 member myself, and many big collectors there talking about certain cards, certain collections, certain conditions, market trends. It's a good place for a deep dive. As far as the biggest step to your question, I think it's patience. Right now, the market is so volatile, it's so crazy that it's very difficult to make those purchases and to really find the items at a reasonable price. And that's something that I think is unfortunate in the market right now, but that just is the reality of where we're currently at. So sourcing things, obviously the online sites are going to be the best place, and eBay is generally where I would go since I am a vintage collector. That's not something you can just pick up in the stores. But if you're just starting out, maybe start with things that are less expensive, less risky, less volatile. Things that you can just collect to enjoy. And maybe that's the best advice, is look for things that you enjoy collecting. That way you don't have to look at it as a winner or a loser investment. Otherwise places, you've got your big online retailers like Troll and Toad, great website for picking up singles and other products. There's places like Collector's Cash. There's a ton of places. I'll maybe generate a larger list, but you have your traditional spots too: Walmart, GameStop, Target. So I don't know, it depends on what you're looking for, but there are places out there. Just be patient with it. I think that's the best thing that I can offer. Blast Boost 86, how are you doing, sir? Premier Blastoise collector here. He's got some really cool pictures. Anyway, he asks, as a Blastoise collector, would you say that the Dark Blastoise is undervalued at this time with only 172 PSA 10 copies in the world? I know only one exists in a BGS 10. Average box prices are around $28K now for first edition. Yeah, so one of the things that's cool about the Team Rocket set is it was originally not one of the more universally agreed upon amazing sets out there. It was not necessarily a flop when it came out, but it wasn't respected as highly as some of its contemporary sets. Having said that, there are some amazing cards in the Team Rocket set, and so the average return on purchase is actually pretty good for Team Rocket. You've got the Dark Charizard, you've got the Dark Raichu, you've got the Dark Dragonite. Some great cards there. Dark Blastoise, though, I think is one of the best artworks in the set. That's why I'm giving one of these away. I love this card. I love the artwork with the Hydro Cannon pointing right at you. And it is a low population card comparatively to some of the others in the set. Personally, I do think it's underrated to a degree. Being a set card, having a population over 100, I don't know how much I would say it's underrated, but it really should be up there with some of the larger ones, like maybe even in competition with the Dark Charizard. I know that Charizard is always in a class of his own, but that's where I would put it personally. It's a good one. It really is. And that set has some great artwork and some great concepts. So you really can't go wrong with the Team Rocket set. Thanks for the question, Blast Boost. Next up is Matthew R, who asks, if Pokemon cards cease to exist, would you still be enjoying Pokemon, and in what way? The answer to this is a resounding yes. However, it probably would be more casual. Like, collecting in Pokemon is the one thing that's kept me sustained from 1999 all the way till now. That's been my tie-in to the hobby. Having said that, I rewatch some of the movies pretty regularly. Personally, I celebrated Pokemon Day on February 27th by rewatching I Choose You, which maybe not my favorite one overall, but I do like how it connects the nostalgic starting, the origin story of Pokemon, but takes a modern twist on it. So I thought that's a creative way to do it. So that would obviously be part of it. I would still be a casual fan of things like Pokemon Go, which I played when it came out. Haven't played it in a while. Some of the Pokemon games as well. Like, I'm hoping to get Pokemon Snap, the new one, when that comes out. Definitely some nostalgic value to that. So I think it would be more casual for sure, because nothing has really drawn me in like the card game has. But I love being part of the franchise, and I love how the memories are triggered from everything Pokemon related. It's not necessarily just looking at values, looking at collecting. To me, there's memories that are associated with those things, and I think that's what gives it that value, if that makes sense. So Matthew, thanks for the question. I'm going to turn back at you. If you don't mind responding to yourself in the comments, what would you be involved in with Pokemon if the card game ceased to exist? All right, we've got Bryce C hitting us with another 2-for-1 question. What Pokemon collecting moment is most memorable to you? And do you think the hate between skateboarders and inline skaters contributed to the lack of popularity of the sport? I used to love both and wish they were both prevalent. It would be fun to see rollerbladers in X Games big air events. Well, I'll address that first one first. I've done a little bit of research in this area since I did participate in rollerblading for over 20 years now. And so I got to watch it when it was originally in the X Games, then kind of fade from collective consciousness. I think with rollerblading, the animosity and hate between skateboarding and rollerblading was a small contributor, but just being honest, I think rollerblading didn't have the iconic figures that skateboarding had, like Tony Hawk, Andy McDonald, Rodney Mullen. I mean, you list any of the people from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and of course that was going to appeal to the masses more. Rollerblading kind of emerged on the scene, was this cultural phenomenon for a little while, and it really wasn't prepared for that big stage. So it's unfortunate because it's one of the things I care the most about. It's one of my favorite hobbies, is aggressive inline skating. But yeah, I'd love to see it back in the X Games too. And I've ridden a Mega Ramp before, so I would love to have that opportunity, but definitely a little too old and inexperienced for that at this level. To your question about Pokemon though, what moment is the most memorable to you? This is maybe not the most glorious or glorified memory, but really just playing with friends and family members. My brother was big into collecting. We had a neighbor girl that lived across the alley. She actually ended up marrying my brother and is now my sister-in-law. And the three of us went to a qualifying tournament at a local mall. It was actually about an hour away. And we competed to earn an entry into the Super Trainer Showdown back in I think this was in 2001. And so that was a really cool experience because we got to go out there and we had all advanced at least a few rounds, excuse me. And it was cool because they had prizes and they had little areas to trade and to play, and there were promo cards. I remember getting one of those jumbo Moltres Zapdos Articuno promos. All of us advanced at least a couple rounds in and received Neo Discovery boosters as part of the prize. I got a t-shirt, I got a hat. It was just a really good day, and the whole day was just nothing but Pokemon. So at that age, to have that experience where you get to go out and see tons of people and just nerd out over something that you're passionate about, it was like nothing else. It was great. So thanks for bringing that memory back, because it's been a while since I've relived that one. All right, our next question comes from Blakim. I apologize if I got your name wrong. Former aggressive inline skater and collector since '99 here. I had no idea we had so much in common. We definitely do. Blastoise also happens to be my favorite Pokemon. I went to the Pokemon League every single Saturday for many years. So my question is this: could you tell us your most memorable story from your local Pokemon League? Well, I already mentioned the one where I got promoted to being one of the gym leaders there, so that's probably the best one. Another one that comes to mind, though, is it was around Christmas time. This was at the mall, and one of the gym leaders at the time, his name was Chad. He had just bought a RC car from Radio Shack next door, and he was driving it around the mall, and there were people coming into the movie theater for, Christmas matinees and movies and stuff. And he was just drifting around on the mall floor and had crashed into one of the Christmas trees and knocked it over. And his manager looked at him weird. He looked back. And he made a joke about the Grinch stealing Christmas, which I think was in the theater at the time with Jim Carrey. And it was just one of those moments that it was just perfect comedic timing, and it was super funny. Like, we were all playing Pokemon, we were distracted, and here this RC car just takes out the Christmas tree. Besides that, though, I think one of the best memories for me was when I was still a player and I had the opportunity to compete for my first badge. I don't know if this is how the game was actually meant to be played in the Pokemon League, but the way we did it was you had to get so many points to earn a badge battle with one of the gym leaders. And if you won that battle, you were awarded one of the badges. And I wanted those badges so bad. And the gym leaders were both much older than the rest of us, so you really had to bring your A game in order to win that match. And you only got one try at it per week. And so it was just really gratifying to do that. And I'm happy to be on both sides of that. I got to then be the gym leader that others would have to challenge in the future. I gave away a lot of badges, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Pretty simple name here, but CJ bringing this question. With the new PSA price increase, do you plan on using CGC for bulk submissions, or do you still plan on using PSA? If you plan on using CGC, what price range would you recommend sending to them instead of PSA? Thanks. This is a good question. Personally, I've been collecting and grading cards for over 10 years, and they've all been PSA cards, so I'm really committed to that grading company, if nothing else for the purpose of consistency. Having said that, I have no affiliation with PSA. I have nothing wrong with the other grading companies. In fact, I think in some cases the CGC cards, like the cases can look better. The VGS ones are certainly like more robust. So I think either of those companies are great. Yeah, the price increase isn't ideal, but that's what I'm going to stick with. And I know the wait times are another factor to put into consideration. For now, PSA is worth more of a premium as well. But when it comes to personal set collecting, I want that consistency with each card. So I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to be patient. I mean, I've been doing this for so long that what's another year? It's a drop in the bucket for me at this point. So good luck with grading, though, if you're going to be sending in some graded cards of your own. Definitely an exciting thing to do as you're waiting for them to come back and, refreshing all the time to see, has it moved? Are my grades available? It's exciting. If you guys haven't done any grading of cards, I wouldn't recommend banking on it entirely, but the experience is a good learning experience and it can be pretty exciting. All right, next up we've got Mike Bender, who asked, what is your favorite WotC set from both a nostalgic and an art standpoint, and which do you feel is the most underappreciated that might have some strong potential for growth in the coming years? For me, I would say Team Rocket, but would love to hear your thoughts. I'm 32, my collection includes every card from Base, Fossil, Jungle, Team Rocket, and some early WotC promos. I'm slowly working to improve the quality and rarity of my Team Rocket Blastoise is a big hole. It's not even a holo. Thanks for the content. Well, Mike, thank you for the question. My personal favorite out of all of them is undoubtedly Neo Destiny. And what I love about Neo Destiny is I think there was a lot of unique concepts with it. Not only do you have light and dark Pokemon in that set, but you also have some of the best looking non-holographic cards, I think. I mean, you look at like the Light Jolteon, the Light Flareon, Light Vaporeon. I know those cards are well loved and respected in the Pokemon community. I really like the artwork in that set as well, but to me, I think it's just the addition of the Shining cards, and those were chase cards for me for a long time, and something that I have a childhood connection to, of trying to find and track down all those cards. That's when Pokemon was starting to become more accessible to me, since I'd had a job at that point when I was 14, 15 years old. So I had a little bit of income that I could go buy some packs, where at a younger age, I really didn't. As far as sets that have some potential for growth, honestly, I think certain cards in every one of those sets have potential. Now, a lot of them have potential to retrace as well, so I don't want to put any like definitive answers to this. What I would say though is that I think the really high scarcity items, especially in high condition, are probably cards that are going to have room for growth. Similarly, I think packs in particular, vintage packs, with every YouTuber opening packs regularly, that's lowering the supply. And over time, I think that business model, in order to be sustainable, is going to have to pay higher prices for packs. So I don't know about every aspect of that, but those are some of my initial thoughts anyway. I do have a few sealed booster boxes myself, and I've just been holding them. I don't open them. I love sealed product, and I see that as a good hedge to some of the individual singles. So I don't know, it's good to be diversified, I think. And even if those cards crash, if the whole market crashes, having sealed product I think is still valuable, because worst case scenario, I have the opportunity to open some packs, and that would be fun. So there's at least a little bit of utility there as well. Great question though. Thanks for sending that one. All right, this is an easy one. Coming from CJ Do Work, asks, non-Pokemon question, who is your favorite Marvel or DC hero or villain? Easy one. My favorite Marvel hero, Spider-Man. And I gotta say, I love Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man. I think he's the perfect role for that, as far as a character that's witty, that's clever, that's industrious, flexible. I love it. Love Spider-Man. I'm excited to see what happens with this new Spider-Man movie. I think they said they're going to have Tobey Maguire make an appearance in it. And you guys will have to forgive me, but whoever was in the Amazing Spider-Man, I can't remember the actor's name that was in that, but having all those different Spider-Mans, if they're actually going to be referenced in that movie, could be pretty unique. And leave it to Marvel to do something innovative. That's what I'm hoping for. Another easy question coming from James Harrison. What is your favorite Black Star promo? For those of you that aren't familiar with that, Wizards of the Coast originally released a 53-card Black Star promo set, and this was over the course of many years. My favorite one, bar none though, Venusaur 13. It happens to be one of the hardest ones to grade, and that's one card I don't have in a PSA 10. I might start collecting the promo set at some point in graded fashion. I have a binder collection of that one. But that card just looks amazing. The release was pretty cool. I believe it came in one of the Nintendo Power magazines in like a little packet thing. Don't quote me on that. I know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to describe it. But that card looks really good. I think it looks better than the original base set Venusaur. So the artwork on that one is a big part of my reason for why I would choose that card. Having said that, I really like the Eevee as well. The holographic one that has the like rainbow holographic pattern. Nice little subtle nod to the other Eeveelutions. So that one's good too, but Venusaur all day. All right, our next question is deep, and it's coming from somebody of the same name. Do you have any comment on the market crash that is bound to come when PSA returns the millions of cards they have? What grading company do you think will come out on top? All right, this is a pretty nuanced question, so I want to be careful with how I answer this. I tend to be more bullish on Pokemon than a lot of commentators out there, and you can take that or leave that for what it is. I just want to acknowledge my bias here. So we do certainly have a massive backlog of cards at PSA. However, what I've seen and what I suspect on a personal level is that a majority of those cards fit into certain categories. I think we're going to see a lot of modern cards coming out. I think we're going to see a lot of non-holographic vintage commons and uncommons coming out. I think some areas, though, are going to be relatively safe. We're talking your expensive trophy cards, your high-end collector's items, your low population PSA 10 holographic cards, even the PSA 9s, because a lot of those cards have already been sucked out of existence from people submitting them in the past. I don't think there are massive backlogs of specifically those types of cards. They've already been profitable to grade in the past. It's the sudden surge of cards that are now profitable that have been sent in mass. So the market crash, I think, is a bit of an oversimplification. I do think that we will see some major retraces in certain segments of the market, but others might actually continue to sustain or perhaps even grow as that crash is happening. So that's your word, not mine. I wouldn't call it a crash. I would call it a strategic correction that I'm surprised that we're in that position to begin with, just based on how common some cards are, but yet how much they're going for in graded fashion. As far as which grading company will come out on top, I think there's room for all of them in the space. I really do. I think PSA will probably continue to command a premium just because that's what a lot of established collectors have already based their collecting on. And if I'm any indication, I'm not a representative of every collector out there, but I like to have consistency in my collection, and I know that's probably true of a number of other collectors. Having said that, I think CGC is doing really well for itself, and Beckett has a great system and a great slab. So it wouldn't surprise me if those were successful in this industry, and that there is market space for all three of them, and even the other grading companies that exist as well. I don't think it has to be just one. All right, this question is pretty funny, especially when we get to it. You'll see what I mean. James Ross says, this is probably because I'm older and love the classics from my childhood, but how do you think the creation of new Pokemon that are not as good as the older generations, generally, and in my opinion, will affect the future of the trading card hobby? And he specifically calls out a certain ice cream Pokemon, saying that I would never want to befriend an ice cream. I want to eat an ice cream. I agree with you, man. I would also prefer to eat the ice cream than befriend it. Having said that, not every Pokemon was like an instant smash hit. Even if we go back to the original 151, we include Mew, there are some that I would be like, what were they thinking? You know, like Mr. Mime comes to mind, and I know I probably offended some of you here. Mr. Mime's cool, don't get me wrong. Just a weird concept with all of the different animals that are out there in the animal kingdom, that they decided to include a mime Pokemon before something like an elephant. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think there's some more desirable Pokemon in every generation. I don't want to knock any subsequent generation. I will say that my nostalgia is pretty much the first two generations up through the Neo sets. And so I'm with you on that one as far as the psychological connection to the ones we grew up with. I think there probably is some bias there. Having said that, if the younger generations like their generations of Pokemon, that's great. I think that's what makes Pokemon a sustainable hobby, is that it has reinvented itself. It has appealed to new audiences for so long, and that's one of its greatest assets. And for us as collectors, I think that new blood coming into the hobby is one of our greatest assets, and we have a very distinct responsibility to be good stewards of the hobby, since we are more influential, we're older, we have more resources. So I don't want to knock anybody's ice cream Pokemon out there. Love what you love, and don't be apologetic about it. That goes for you too, James. If you love the vintage stuff, you've heard me say it here on this channel, the classics never go out of style. That's my preference. That's what I collect. But there's room for everybody in this space. All right, Bezalis asks, have you watched the Pokemon anime? And if so, what season of the Pokemon anime is your favorite? Well, again, I'm a lover of the classics, and my experience with Pokemon is really defined through my childhood. So I've watched several seasons of the anime, multiple times. The first season is obviously my favorite. I really like the season where they go around the Orange Islands riding Lapras. I think I have that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've watched it, but first season has to be my favorite, especially with Veronica Taylor voicing Ash Ketchum. And I've watched some of her stuff on YouTube and how she's supporting the charities and how she's collaborated with Leonhardt. And I think that she is an unsung hero and asset to this hobby. And so I just want to do a shout out there. You guys should leave a like on Veronica Taylor's stuff. I would love to see her brought back into the fold with Pokemon in some way, shape, or form, because to me, she's always going to be Ash Ketchum. Having said that, what I love about that first generation is, again, just how new and inspirational it was to me when I first watched it. That's where my connection is. I think all of the anime is pretty cool, though, especially how the art style has evolved and personalized for different generations. I like seeing that. Like, it's a little bit weird to see different iterations of Ash Ketchum and other characters take the screen. But at the same time, I think that's a good thing, that people have that personalized, almost ownership. Different generations have their ownership of their version of Pokemon. And to me, that's great. So just like there's room for different generations here, I think we can share Ash Ketchum and Pikachu and all of the Pokemon in different ways. All right, Matthew Tang asks, where do you see the Pokemon market in the next 6 to 12 months? Higher or lower, and why? Thanks and congrats on the success. This question I cannot answer directly because it's my personal opinion that we're going to see a deviation in the market. Right now, everything's been moving almost universally in one direction: modern, vintage, trophies, Japanese. But I think as we move into the future, this is where we're going to see certain elements of the market shift gears. I think that a lot of areas of the market will see some saturation in PSA graded cards, especially for modern and for non-holographic, common and uncommon vintage. I think we're going to see a lot of those like set cards become more available as well. However, I think we're also going to see at the same time some of those higher end collectible items, some of the really true scarcity begin to rise as the cream of the crop. So the market, I think, is going to move in both directions. That's my personal opinion. I know that that's not opinion shared by everyone out there, but that is my take on it. All right, Niels Kirk asks, I have a question for you. I've been collecting vintage Pokemon for a couple of years now, but my primary hobby is playing old school 93-94 Magic the Gathering. I dabbled in Magic for a while too. I love the mechanics of that card game. It's fun to play with friends, so I know where you're coming from. I noticed you talking about the Pokemon community and the old school Magic community. You connect with people mostly through the playing itself, meeting people at tournaments, playing online webcam games, etc. How do you grow your connections with people in the vintage Pokemon community when the hobby is primarily about collecting? Is it mostly online, or are there some kinds of collectors, trade events you can attend? This is a really good question. For me personally, a lot of my interaction with people have come through a number of different spaces, whether it's through message boards. Way back in the day, there was an old one called PokeGym, which I think still exists. I haven't been there in a while, but that's where I met some of the people from the hobby. Others have been fellow collectors that we've done trades with and then have developed a sort of correspondence back and forth. The E4 forum, and there's several different Discord sites. There's Facebook groups that are dedicated to this. So I think over time, just people that have a common interest are going to find each other, and they're going to have those discussions and those interactions that then lead to a closer knit community and friendships and acquaintanceships and stuff like that. Having said that, there are some opportunities to meet up in person. I know that Worlds happens usually every year. It hasn't the last 2 years now. There's also some collector conventions. Most recently, there was Collecticon down in Texas that had some big names in the Pokemon community like Gary, King Pokemon, Randolph. Who else was there? Leonhard, I think, made an appearance, and tons of other collectors. So those events, I think, are really good to go to. I haven't been to many events like that myself, but I'm definitely hoping to get out to them once things clear up here in the United States anyway. But yeah, I think that social aspect to the game and to collecting is really the part that makes it the most fun. If you can't connect with other people and share your passion with others, then you're missing out. You really are. You're missing out on the part that makes it, the social aspect is so important, and I would hate for anybody to lose out on that. And the community is very accepting for the most part, and I do feel like there's room for just about everybody in this community. Those supply constraints might be tight right now. Be patient. It will get better. And, I'm I'm glad that there's people here that are finding the community for the first time. So Niels, welcome to the community. I hope you have a chance to connect with people. Sounds like that's something that would be right up your alley. All right, Uncle Bobby. Dang it, Bobby. Uncle Bobby asks, is there a Pokemon YouTuber that inspired you to create your channel? I think it's kind of an amalgamation of several different YouTubers. One, I really look to Scott S.M. Pratt as, I think, really like the godfather of Pokemon YouTube channels. When it came to commentary videos, he's always spot on, and he has so much knowledge and experience in the hobby that was kind of a model that I wanted to follow to some degree. Having said that, as far as style of content and personality, Gem Mint Pokemon, some of you are old enough to remember Gem Mint Pokemon when he was producing content regularly. Zach is one of the nicest guys in the hobby and one of the most knowledgeable. And he has one of the most amazing collections that I've ever seen. I think for me, really what sold me on Gem Mint Pokemon is we go back a little ways. We'd help each other with some collecting and did trades. But I loved in his videos how whenever he would get a PSA return or something, how excited he was for every card, regardless of the value, regardless of the grade, regardless of whatever it was he was expecting. Every experience was treated as something positive. And that's just who he is. He's that way in real life. And so that's something I find very influential. And it kind of brings me back to that childlike enthusiasm that I think many of us had when we were first discovering Pokemon, whether it was the cards, the game, the show, all of the above. So he's got to be the main source of inspiration for me personally. Leon S. asks, what were you doing when you pull your first Charizard from an original base set? Was it in 1999 or 2000? I was in the bathroom. I will never sell my Charizard. What a weird place to pull your Charizard. I mean, I guess it's kind of convenient because for me, I would probably pee myself in excitement. Having said that, this might be a little bit unbelieving for some of you, but I have never pulled a base set Charizard of any kind. Unlimited, shadowless, first edition. The closest I ever got was with evolutions. I have bought a few evolutions booster boxes years ago before the price spike. And I just really enjoy doing that because I couldn't afford those packs when I was younger. I'd get my cards mainly through trades. So that's one thing that I never had the opportunity for, was pulling that Charizard. I have opened, I think, probably 3 or 4 base set packs in my life. That's it. So I haven't had the opportunity to do that very much. I'm excited for you though. You got to pull the Charizard. That is a top level experience that a lot of people would be envious of, myself included. All right, strange username on this one, but Poor Boy 5Wag, Poor Boy 5Wag, which I assume is supposed to be swag, but with a number 5 instead of an S. Anyway, he asks, can you do a video on your computer setup? Do you game? I mean, I actually don't do any gaming. I do a ton of video editing though, and that's something I've done semi-professionally in the past. I do teach video production classes as well, so most of my gear is designed with video production and editing in mind. Having said that, I do actually have a Super Nintendo down by my setup that I play occasionally, and when I do, I'm really good at Tetris 2. Love that game. There are some turtle games that I have. Super Mario, Mario Kart. The classics, man. The classics never go out of style, even when you're talking about video games. So that's my favorite system. But as far as computer gaming, not really. I don't have time for that, and kind of have an addictive completionist mindset. And if I started doing gaming, I think it would suck me in. So not a knock at anybody that games. I'm kind of jealous. I just know that if I started, I'd have a hard time stopping. So we just won't start. All right, this is a really good question. JohnBoy92 says, Dear Pokemon Classics, are you planning on selling your collection one day or pass it on to your family or friends? I've been asking myself that question every now and then. Yeah, this is a great question, and I've been thinking about this a bit as well. Fortunately, I'm in pretty good health yet, hopefully, and fairly young, but I don't have direct family of my own. I'm not married, I don't have kids, and so I do have a niece and nephew, and one of the things that I want to do is make sure that they have a college fund. That's well funded so that they can get an education. As a teacher and somebody coming from a first generation where neither of my parents and none of my relatives really finished school and went on to college to earn a degree, I've always valued education very highly. And so I think my plan with my collection is to leave it to my niece and nephew. If they're not old enough to inherit it, I'd have my brother fulfill my desires of making sure they get that college education. I've talked to my family a little bit about it. If they want to keep the cards for nostalgic purposes or for memory, they can do that. If they want to put them up at auction, if they want to donate some to charity, really whatever they want to do, I think that's their prerogative to do with it. I do have a very close relationship with my immediate family, so that's what would happen with my collection in the event of my untimely demise. All right, next up, Justin asks, what's your favorite type of cards to pick up? Singles, sealed boxes, loose packs, mystery boxes, and can we get a video of you on your blades? Well, here you go. Your wish is my command. Here's some blading clips. To your first question, what do I like to pick up? Well, most of my purchases at this point are generally graded cards that I need for my collection, and they're becoming more difficult to find as scarcity becomes more of an issue as prices continue to go up. As I fill in holes in my collection, that leaves fewer holes left to find, so that is becoming more difficult. I have bought some booster boxes on occasion. I'm generally not one to get into Modern very heavily, but I did find Evolutions as a set very appealing because of the base set artworks. So I did buy a couple Evolutions boxes in the past. Generally, I like to go on eBay and look for collections. Cards that have the potential to become part of my set. Those are really hard to find these days. They used to be plentiful on eBay, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But still, I think the thrill of the hunt for looking for those deals is part of what makes collecting so much fun. So all of the above is the simple answer. As far as where do I seek out the things that I want ultimately for myself? Sometimes it's collections, sometimes it's graded cards, sometimes it's just the experience of opening packs. So I've bought some packs on occasion here and there too, usually with the intention, like the Evolutions ones, of opening them. I got to share that experience with my niece and nephew and my brother and sister-in-law, so that made it a good time too. All right, next up we have Don, who asks, it's a joy watching your videos. Congrats on gaining more subscribers. It's well deserved. You provide excellent information without the crazy hype. Yeah, I'm just not overly the hype type of person. The reactions are great. I think they serve certain audiences. Definitely not my style, though. I see myself as more of an educator rather than an entertainer. Having said that, non-TCG, but related to your younger self. If you could have been a trainer in real life, which Pokemon would you have wanted for your journey? And why a Charmander? Right there, Charmander. You know me too well. Seriously, what would your starter have been and why? Well, I've got the Charmander up behind me. Charmander is probably my favorite of the starters. I've actually run with Squirtle a few times in the game though. And Squirtle was often I think a more strategic pick, especially coming into the first one being Pewter City against Brock. Having said that though, Charmander would be my guy. I don't really have a good reason behind it. I just like Charmander the best. In the anime, obviously all the starters played a really significant role, but I think it's arguable that Charmander and then Charmeleon and Charizard are probably the most notable of Ash's starters outside of Pikachu. So maybe that's partially influencing me in a subconscious way, but it's gotta be Charmander. So you already knew the answer to the question. Props on that, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with Charmander. Always Grading Cards asks, have you ever collected sports cards? Also, do you still have your original Pokemon cards when you were younger? The answer to both of these questions is yes. I collected sports cards avidly as a kid. Growing up in the 90s, watching NFL on TV and the NBA, those were the cards that I was interested in. I don't know if any of the ones that I had were any good. I still have boxes of them in storage, but I was really into sports cards. And that was actually what I was into before Pokemon came out, and that was kind of the transition into the Pokemon trading card game. As far as Pokemon cards when I was younger, I still have my binder collections. At some point, maybe I'll show those off. I recently went through the binders though, and the vast majority of my cards are in awful condition. And part of that's because I didn't get them from packs myself. I traded people for them. I found them in like the bulk piles at the store when we went to the local gaming store. And to me, it was just a set completionist thing. Condition didn't matter. I just wanted to have them all. I didn't collect them all when I was younger, but I do have quite a few from the Wizards of the Coast set. And I recently went through and started taking the holographic cards and putting them into sleeves and top loaders rather than in the binders. Yeah, the condition is rough, but I'll definitely show off some of those. Those ones I never bothered to sell. Those ones were part of my childhood collection. Those are going to stay with me. So it's always cool when you have those to connect to. All right, DDR Kid 1919. I hope you're talking Dance Dance Revolution because that's a game that I played a lot of growing up. But anyway, what is the best advice you can give to someone on how to manage Pokemon fatigue and avoid burnout with all the hype that's been built over the past year? Yeah, that's a great question too. I think what ultimately you need to do is figure out what brought you into the hobby to begin with. Whether that's the show, the cards, the games, a combination of them, and just connect with that. You don't have to worry about consuming everything. You don't have to watch every video. You don't have to agonize over every piece of finance or seek out all of the advice. Do what makes you happy. If that's literally opening one pack of cards a year, do that. If it's opening up your collection and flipping through some of the cards and reliving those memories, that's ultimately why I started this channel, is I wanted to go back through some of my cards and just reflect on them. Otherwise, I might forget about them. So I think that would be my best advice for that question, is figure out what brought you here and what you can do to rekindle that. Because ultimately, it's that mindset that's going to sustain you through the fatigue. And it's actually, if anything else, it's going to re-inspire you to get back to the basics. You know, and like anything in life, once you make something a career, or you build a sponsorship out of something, or you monetize something, it does become more robotic and less authentic. And that's something that I think everybody should be concerned about, but something that you can monitor for yourself, because you're the only one that can control that. That happens all inside our mind, inside our heart. So what is it that brought you here, and how can you reconnect with that? That's a question that I'm gonna leave you to answer, because it's a personal question. But make time for yourself, be reflective, really be reflective. All right, next up we have Rob, who asks, what legacy would you want to leave after growing this channel? You know, the legacy that I want to leave is, I think, our number one responsibility as older collectors, more mature collectors, experienced, whatever you want to call us, is to be good stewards of the hobby. And so for me, that's passing along the knowledge and experience that I have from, you know, over a decade's worth of collecting, grading cards, selling cards, packaging cards, looking up population reports. I think that knowledge needs to go along to new people so that they make well-informed decisions of their own. More importantly, I think that part of being a good steward for the hobby is to make sure that we make the community as inclusive as possible for those younger audiences. I think oftentimes those younger audiences are the ones to get the short end of the stick. That, you know, if you're new to the hobby, there is sometimes this atmosphere or attitude that you don't belong, or that you're not entitled to be a part of this space, that you have to pay your dues. And that's a dangerous mindset to have, I think, for us as creators and collectors and elders, that we want to make sure that we make this an engaging experience, a friendly experience, and a helpful experience to all those younger people that are part of this. And my channel isn't really dedicated or geared towards a younger audience, but in time, that younger audience is going to mature. They're going to hopefully stick with Pokemon. they're going to maintain that same childhood enthusiasm that many of us have for collecting that was originally instilled in us at a young age, and then evolve into that next generation of collectors that can carry the torch. To me, that's important. That's the legacy that I hope to leave behind. And if there's anything that I can do to further that legacy, I hope that I have the opportunity to. So that's a great question. I really like that one. I think that's an important question for everybody to ask, not just those that consider themselves PokeTubers or influencers, but literally every person that's in the hobby leaves some form of impact. What will your impact be? It's a tough question, but an important one. Well, guys, thanks for making it to the end of this first Q&A video. And I gotta say, what an honor and a privilege it's been to be representing the Pokemon card community in this capacity and being able to share in the love and support for the hobby with all of you. So I appreciate all of you guys leaving questions. There were actually 123 different comments left to choose from, which made it very difficult for me to choose. So considering there were so many, what I decided to do is actually 3 giveaways. That's right, 3 instead of just 1. And for the first 2, we're going to put all of the names. Every user that left a comment is going to be eligible to win one of these first 2 prizes. Then we'll get to the grand finale for all of those that I chose, the 28 comments that were featured in this video, with 1 lucky viewer taking home that Dark Blastoise first edition. So let me give you guys a look at some of these prizes that are on the line here, because as much as Pokemon has given me, I think it's time to give something back. So I'm excited for this. The first prize package is what I like to call the Pokemon the First Movie package, because it includes the 4 promo cards that were issued at Pokemon the First Movie, as well as the Ancient Mew holographic. And so this one's kind of cool because it's 5 cards, and they're old promo cards. None of them are worth an arm and a leg, but they're decent condition, and it's kind of nice to have the whole set intact. So if this spins your name, hit me up in the comments or find me on Instagram and we'll work it out. We'll figure out shipping. If you guys are international, it might be a little more complicated, but I'll try to work with you on that. Anyway, good luck, everybody. All right, spin number 1. Here we go. We've got all 123 names registered here, giving everybody a slightly under a 1% chance. Looks like we're closing in. Ooh, it's going to be a close one here. We've got Don Danaher. Hey, Don, hit me up in the comments or on Instagram, and we'll figure out how to get this over to you. Congratulations on that, and I hope you enjoy this prize package. Our next generic prize package is sort of a collection of different starter Pokemon, and so it features this Birthday Pikachu, which is laminated. That's definitely not how I would want it. It's literally physically laminated, but it's still pretty cool and has encapsulated the artwork. There's also some from the base set. There's a Squirtle here, a Bulbasaur, both unlimited, as well as a Pikachu. We also have a Pikachu from the Jungle set. He's a little more chunky, but still pretty cool artwork on that one. And then lastly, there's this Jungle promo Pikachu, and that's actually the very first of the Black Star promo, so a little bit of history on that one. Lastly, we can't forget the Charmander. I mentioned this earlier in the video. Charmander is my favorite of the starters, and what makes this one special is it's from the Reverse Legendary Collection set. So a pretty desirable card here. I would rate it in maybe excellent condition, maybe in that PSA 5 to 7 realm, but very nice artwork on this one. So let's flip back to the wheel and see who our next lucky winner is going to be. And now for our second spin. This time the chances are slightly better with 122 people represented. And it's slowing down here. Looks like we're gonna have K2 the God. All right, congratulations, K2. Again, send me a comment here or on Instagram. We'll figure out shipping, and again, congrats. Really cool cards here. Hope you enjoy them. And thanks for your participation in the comments, leaving the questions. All right, and for our grand finale giveaway, we've got the Dark Blastoise, first edition, one of my favorite artworks from all of the Wizards of the Coast sets. In addition to that, I also wanted to throw in something extra, so I picked out one of each of the starters from Shadowless set. And these are all pretty good condition, probably in the range of near mint, maybe near mint plus. And we got the Squirtle, we got the Bulbasaur, my personal favorite, the Charmander. And of course, we put in a Red Cheeks Pikachu in there just for good measure. So good value to this collection, representing the classics, and that's what I'm all about on this channel. So hopefully this one goes to a good home, and I wish you all luck. We've got 28 participants in this one. We've loaded them all up, so let's get our final wheel spin. And lastly, for our final event, we've got just the 28 people that had a comment featured in the video. So a special thanks to all of these people for your comments. And it looks like we're gonna have Matthew Tang here as our final winner, taking home that first edition Dark Blastoise. Really cool card, one of my favorite artworks. Hope you enjoy it. Again, reach out to me with your contact information. We'll figure out how to get it shipped over to you. So congrats again. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Again, thank you so much for everything. I look forward to bringing you content in the future. It's a very volatile market, very unusual situation, but I'm thankful for every minute of this. Anyway, guys, I'm Pokemon Classics, reminding you until next time that the classics, they'll never go out of style. We'll see you guys later with the next video. Bye, everybody.